Good morning. Welcome to this first meeting of Biennale Tecnologia in its second full day on Saturday. I'm Juan Carlos De Martin. I'm a professor here at the Politecnico, and I'm also the curator of Biennale Tecnologia, together with my friend Luca De Biase. And it's a great pleasure to introduce this meeting with a distinguished guest. It's a great pleasure for several reasons. This is a meeting organized in collaboration with the Japan Hub of the Politecnico, which is an ambitious and wonderful initiative of the Politecnico to strengthen and coordinate the collaboration with the institutions and researchers in Japan, a country which I really, really love. And so this is a first reason. The second reason is that our distinguished guest, who I'm going to introduce in a second, is a philosopher, and he works in several areas, and is a deep interest in technology, and therefore is fully in line with this Biennale, which, as you know, is about technology and society, and the motto of Biennale is technology is humanity. And therefore, as you see, several reasons to be particularly happy and proud for this meeting. Now, allow me to introduce our distinguished guest, which is Professor Yasuo Deguchi. And by the way, let me also thank his collaborators and being here, and particularly Dr. Kumiko Mori and Dr. Shunichi Takagi for being here with us. Thank you. And Professor Deguchi is Vice Provost, Deputy Executive Vice President for Strategic Coordination, Dean and Professor of Philosophy at the Graduate School of Letters, Vice Rector of Institute for the Future of Human Society at the Kyoto University, and is the co-chairperson of the Kyoto Institute of Philosophy. His research includes modern and contemporary Western philosophy and analytic Asian philosophy. The meeting, as all the meetings in Biennale, will last an hour. And the general agreement of Biennale is that we're going to talk and about 45 minutes, and then we will have time for 10-15 minutes of interaction with the public for short questions or short comments. So without much further ado, let me give the floor, the virtual floor, to our guest, Professor Deguchi. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the introduction to me, and I'm very honored and excited to be given this opportunity to talk to you, even though in this remote situation. I'm now in Japan, and so this is a Japanese afternoon, and very hello to you. So let me start my presentations. So its title is this: Towards a Multi-Layered Society of Values. Let me start that. Okay, so this is some menus of my talks today. And first is my view of our time, our era. Okay, towards the century values. So in my views, 20th century is a basically a century of technology and economics. And the 21st century, technology and economics still principally, crucially important. But other thing, that is value, should be put more emphasis than before. So this is my understanding of our time. Okay, so here's a grand idea of 20th century. I think that should be shared by many peoples in Japan and Italy as well. That is this: if science and technology advance, an ideal economic system is established, people, we, will become happy or happier, and society will improve, and the war will cease. But advances in the society, in science, technology, and economics do not necessarily guarantee our happiness, well-being, or social improvement, or an end to war. Sadly enough, this observation should be very evident for many peoples in the world. So now value is more important than before. This kind of, the trend we can observe in economics and technology. For example, in the technology, to guarantee economic welfare is not necessarily achieved solely through the economic advancement or economic efficiency. This observation launched a new branch of economics that is called welfare economics. The same thing happened in the environment. To protect environment by preventing environmental crisis destruction by economic development, we should put from the first environmental values to designing our economy, to designing our economics. So the result is environmental economics. And the same thing is about to happen with regard to the well-being. So soon afterwards, we should have a new branch of economics that can be or should be called as well-being economics. A similar situation we can observe in the technologies. Technologies aimed for, broadly speaking, usefulness and efficiencies. But now we should take into account many other values than these, such as welfare, environment, and well-being. So result should be welfare technology, environmental technology, and well-being technologies. Those kind of movements we can find in many corners of the world. So here is some philosophers called internalization of values phenomena we can see in the many parts of economics and technology. Once some value that is external to economy and technology should be internalized, should be incorporated from the beginning, a prior way to the activities of economy and technology. So this kind of internalization, the many important values to economy and technology and some other activities should raise the very basic questions. That is, what is the values? What kind of values we should aim for? For example, what is a goodness? What is a freedom? What is a good society? What is the beauty? This kind of fundamental question of values should be highlighted again. But there should be a new angle to that. So now, standard idea of those values should be rooted in the 18th century Western ideas, Western philosophical cultural tradition, that is Enlightenment movement. And Enlightenment idea of values still very, very important, very precious. We shouldn't neglect those. But 21st century society, global, society is now increasingly diversified. So we should take into account more diverse traditions of culture, philosophy, and technological values. So we shouldn't be content with one idea of value that is 18th century Enlightenment. We should take into account many other values such as well-being, or many versions or many variants of idea of well-being that we can find in the many different corners of global cultures. Okay, that is a basic observation of our time, of mine. Then let me go to the philosophy side. Okay. And so one of the big important roles of philosophy is to propose particular concrete value or value system visions to the society. Okay. That was philosophy's task and still very important role philosophy contemporary to play. And of course, philosophers in the past, classical philosophers such as Aristotle, Kant, Nietzsche, some others, proposed a particular views their own views, opinions, or value to the society of their time. But this kind of proposal, a concrete particular values to society, has been weakened from sometime the late 19th century to the 20th centuries through last centuries. And at the same time, philosophy, maybe subtly enough, becomes a normal science in the Thomas Kuhn's sense. That means, turning away from big questions such as what is values, what is freedoms, but rather, presuppose some special idea of values, special views, enlightenment views of freedom as assumptions, and focusing on the technically solvable questions under those big assumptions. But now, value should be highlighted again. So philosophers also needs to focus on value again and try to make their efforts to propose a particular value system to the society. Or let me call that new movement of philosophy to become as an engaging philosophy that engaging in the contemporary society world with respect to its value proposal. And so here is my own philosophy, my own version of a value proposal. I call that we turn from I to we. This we turn value system of my own is based on my observation of a human individual, or I. So here's a typical standard modern Western view of I. I is an individual agent and who has a fundamental important capacity. I call that the capacity or capability of single actions. So I, individual human beings, can perform at least some important life event single actions by alone. So in that sense, I, or human individual, is self-standing, self-contained. But I have a quite different view on that. That is, I, human individual, has a fundamental incapability rather than capability, incapability of single actions. No single somatic action by any one individual is possible. In this sense, the individual I is not self-contained or self-standing. This kind of idea, incapability of single actions, is rooted from one East Asian traditional idea. I call that the tradition of a holy fool, according to which incapability is a virtue rather than vice. Anyway, here's my value proposal. We turn. So the first we turn is a we turn of action of a doer. That is, the shift of subject or unit of somatic, our bodily action from the I to the we as a multi-agent system, according to which all our somatic bodily actions are, in fact, collective. And subject unit of somatic action is a multi-agent system that consists of this I is still very important, but other human beings, non-human lives, non-human animals, plants, and natural things, and also artifacts, AI and robot. And this multi-agent system that should be the subject of any single somatic action should be called as a we rather than a. So here's a we turn from I to we. This we turn of action is based on or derived from three basic assumption 1, 2, 3. So this is not mysterious ideas. This can be derived from this set of assumptions. And if you are you can swallow up those three assumptions. A natural consequence is we term of actions. So term of subject of or unit of somatic action from I to we, multi-agent system. And here's fourth assumption, that is, self is the subject or unit of somatic action. Then from this we term of action, we can easily, naturally derive the second we term of self. So term of self as I to the self as we, as a multi-agent system. And these two we terms of action and self can trigger many other we term of some important values. We term of rights. So that means we should guarantee my rights only within our rights. Our rights should come first. And within that, so we can talk about first, my rights. The same thing can be applied to responsibilities. We turn over responsibility is a turn from I or my responsibility to our responsibilities. Our responsibility should come first. And only within that, we can talk about my responsibility. Same thing can be said to well-being. So turn from my well-being to our well-being. So my well-being is still very important. But that is a meaningful only within the scheme of our well-being. The same thing can be said to the freedom as well, for example. So this is a we term, my proposal. But this we term is not, of course, a promise to a utopia, promise to the perfect society. Why? The reason is very simple. As there are many good eyes, good individual, and bad individual. One individual, me, for example, can be good at some time and can be bad at others. Like this, there are simply good ways and bad ways as well. So what we should do is to make our we good, better, best. To do that, we need some clear visions. What is a good we? What is a bad we? What is a goodness of we? But what is a badness of we? Here's one answer to that. But we is a close and exclusive towards its outside. But we is also oppressive towards to its inner members. So let me call this kind of a bad we as a totalitarian or hard we. The good we is just opposite of this bad we. Good we should be opened and non-exclusive towards its outside. And the good we also should be non-oppressive towards its inner members. Let me call this good we is also soft we or softened we. And here's another important assumption my we term system. Moral goodness and freedom and well-being. Those three basic values should be on the same line. There should be the positively correlated. So attainment of this good we, that should be the attainment realization of our we's freedoms. And that should be the attainment or achievement of our we's well-beings. And that should be the basis for my individual well-being. And so here's one important structure of we, our good we, and less oppressive we. So anyway, but one is that. So left-hand side, that I called center-occupied we. in that the center of interest or value system or value views is occupied by particular individuals or particular groups, and other members inevitably serving that particular interest, particular values. So one particular person should take this center. That is a dictatorship. One group of people occupy center exclusively, and other people should be marginalized. That is a social injustice, social discriminations. And one only individual, only one particular race, that is the human beings, occupy the center. That is but anthropocentric. And among those members within the center occupied we, zero-sum game is always taking place or assumed. If one particular person or group takes the center, others should be, marginalized. This kind of a zero-sum gamic opposition, occupation of the center is always assumed, presupposed. And that is bad we, in my view. So the good we should have another opposite structure that I called empty-centered structures, in which no particular individual, no particular human beings or human beings as a race should occupy the center of interest and values. And the center of interest or value of the we should be always left emptied. So there should be no zero-sum gaming situation. And there should be always some sort of collaborations and joint risk-taking of some adventure or joint activities, joint somatic actions that should be free from that kind of zero-sum gamic ideas. So let me code this kind of we as an empty-centered we, and think this is one of the very big important structure, character of goodness of we, I claim. So here, let me go to the philosophy of technology. Now, there are many discussions about what is a good ethical relation between the human beings and technology or artifacts, such as AI and robot. Here's one standard European model for the good relation between the human and artifacts. That is called master-slave model, according to which humans as masters should be masters, and artifacts, AI or robot, should be slaves. And the master should exclusively occupy the center of we, and artifacts as slave should be marginalized. So this kind of a quite one way or relationship with regard to the interest and values. That's a good idea. So human always exclusively occupy the centers and artifacts not. So that kind of idea, master-slave model, is going to be integrated in the legal system of EU or UK. But based on we-turn system, or my idea of a good we, that is empty-centered structure, let me propose a alternative model for the good relation between the human and artifacts. So I call that fellowship model or co-adventurers model, in which human beings and artifacts should have a more equal positions, status. Neither human beings nor artifact should occupy the center of we exclusively. Of course, there should be sort of difference in degree. Human can be nearer to the center, and while artifacts are not. But the difference between them should be difference in kind, but difference in degrees. So that is a basic idea of a fellowship model between human beings and artifacts. Okay, so this means even artifacts, AI robot, should be treated of our moral attitude. They should have sort of the moral status, moral positions. Then what kind of a moral position we should give to artifacts such as AI robot? My idea is disposal rights of artifacts. Then what is the disposal rights? And anti-disposal rights artifacts should be given. Then what is anti-disposal rights? To explain that, let me start to explain its opposite. That is the disposal rights of human beings over artifacts, their properties. So what is a disposal right? This disposal right is presupposed by the master slave model or Western standard ideas, according to which human has a right to dispose artifacts, their own, without any particular reasons. When we throw out my belongings to the garbage, we don't have to give some specific reason for that. And anti-disposal rights is a sort of opposite ideas. So artifacts, even though they are owned by me, they should have an anti-disposal rights. That is a right not be disposed of without specific reasons. I should have a good reasons to throw away my belongings, artifacts. I should, propose that. I should display that when I put my belonging to the garbage. Then, what is the good reasons? Of course, if my belongings computer is broken and I cannot repair that, so it's a good reason to throw it away. If my computer's performance is environmentally very, very pleasurable, so that is one reason to be disposed. And when my computer is used to make our we bad, worse, and worst, so my computer, some technology is used to make our we more totalitarian. That is a good reason for them to be disposed of. But otherwise, so human beings do not have any disposal rights over their owned artifacts. So, but of course, it's quite allowable to reuse or recycling any artifacts belongings. So as a result, human beings' ownership over its artifacts is downgraded to temporal keepership. So this means, we should give some rights to artifacts. But that means artifacts should have responsibilities. So responsibility, that idea is always connected to the punishabilities. If artifacts should keep their responsibility, they should be punished. Then what is a punishment to the artifacts who has no pain, pleasure, sensitivities? How to make sense? Punishment to the artifact, punishment to AI. My solution is very simple. Granting anti-disposal rights to all artifacts or natural entities or AI and robot. And punishment artifact is disposal or removal of that kind of anti-disposal rights. So they should have, from the outset, anti-disposal rights. Then we can make sense of punishment to them by denial, suspension of this anti-disposal rights. So anyway, that's my idea for the good relationship between human beings and artifacts, AI and robot. Let me, final remark. the new institutions that was already introduced. That's the Kyoto Institute of Philosophy. So this is one of the missions of this new institute in Kyoto, Japan. That is value proposal, okay? And value proposal for multi-layered societies. So we can talk about, in the many corners of the world already, pluralism, value pluralism. So many values should be, admitted in one single society. But our idea is a bit more advanced than this mere pluralism. In our view, even one single individual, one single human beings, and one single society should have multi-layered values. Different values are accumulated to form a layers. They are not merging or fused into one single values. We should have many distinct, different, and even opposing values within one single individual, I and individual society. And we should faithful this multi-layeredness of value for even one single individual to make explicit, to give some clear verbal expression to each of those multi-layered values. And that is one of the missions of Kyoto Institute of Philosophy that was established in Kyoto, Japan last year. And to carry out these missions, we need co-adventurers, fellows in the world, in Italy, in Torino. So co-adventurers to form we for this, for these missions to be carried out. We need very, support of very various disciplines other than philosophies, humanities, natural science, engineers, so on and so forth. And we need, support, collaborations from industrial and governmental or NGO, NPO, many sorts of players or organizations from around the world. So let us engage together in the co-adventures of envisioning new values to bring out multi-layered society globally and locally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Deguchi, for this wonderful presentation and for having shared with us your view and your philosophy and your proposals. There are so many things that I would like to say, but for the sake of leaving some time also for our plentiful audience, I will just select a few of the thoughts that came to mind listening to you. A very short preamble. The preamble is that you have been mentioning mostly 19th century, 18th century philosophy, and rightly so, is still very relevant for us. However, I keep thinking that the phenomenon of the great acceleration, which is the huge expansion of the humanity and the humanity's consequences of humanity's action on the planet since 1945. Humanity has quadrupled in size, the number of motor vehicles has increased enormously, etc., etc., etc. Is a quantitative change that has produced a qualitative change. And therefore, I think, and you go in this direction if I'm not wrong, we need, on the basis of previous philosophies, to develop new concepts and even new philosophies to deal with the fact that the impact on the planet has been so large that now the planet is itself an actor and reacting back to what humanity has been doing, which to some extent has always done, but not to the extent that we're seeing today, starting with the climate change, of course, and then many other reactions. So there is another actor, clear actor, which is the planet itself, and it's unpredictable, even though we try to model it. The second comment that I would like to make is that I really like your elaboration on the we proposal, and of course it's obvious to think that it's also as a political connotation, and the connotation particularly leads the mind to think about democracy. Which is, of course, a complicated concept, has many different meanings also in many different cultures. But democracy, I think, it strives to find a way of having a soft we, as you defined it, trying to protect the I from the bad we that you described. And so I do believe that taking democracy seriously it goes in the direction that you have been describing. If I'm not wrong, I look forward to listening to you. Another quick comment is that the way you describe artifacts being treated, many humans are treated like the artifacts that you describe. And so I, somewhat jokingly, tongue-in-cheek, I wonder whether the anti-disposal measure that you propose shouldn't be applied also to humans, that the master-slave relation often is not only humans versus artifact, but humans versus other humans, and we go back to the democracy issue. Final thought is that I really like the anti-disposal rights, and I've been thinking on my own about something that stays before that, which is a responsible parenthood, meaning that you talk about anti-disposal rights of artifacts already in existence, and but of course we give birth to artifacts, and so I wonder whether we can also juxtapose to the anti-disposal rights also much more emphasis on responsible parenthood, to have to bring artifacts into existence only after clear thinking of the consequences of bringing those artifacts into existence. So just very quick reaction to this, your wonderful presentation.
Okay, so let me and give some return comment to your wonderful comments or remarks very briefly. And first, planet. And I totally agree with your observations. So now, this I'm talking about we term. And so planet is an essential, indispensable member of every we. Whenever I do something, okay, planet is indispensable, very important, crucial player to participate to that doing something. The planet is also very important, part of we, and we should give some moral status, moral rights to this planet as well. So planet is another very important, partner or a fellow of this we. Right? And second, democracy. And so democracy is very important. And this we terms idea, democracy is still very, very crucially important social system. But something new to that is, so I said that zero-sum gaming structure of we is not good we. That's not good structure. So this kind of idea should also apply to the democracy. Democracy is important, but in the new democracy within the scheme of we term should be anti-zero-sum gaming democracy, in which no members of society, democratic society, shouldn't allow to occupy the center of the society exclusively. So anti-zero-sum gaming democracy is very important in my view as well. And the third is a sort of, what is the third? What is the third remark you made?
The fact that some humans, many humans are treated like artifacts.
Yes, and the master-slave model, of course, needless to say, shouldn't be applied any members over any, and so partners or fellows within a we. And of course, and humans should not be treated slave, and a natural thing. So non-human animals should not be treated as a slave. So master-slave model should be denied for any members within a we. And also you said, and you mentioned sort of a responsibility of a parent's food, of producing an artifact by humans. And I totally agree with that. So parent should have some responsibilities. So parent, if once produced or reproduce their children's or grandchildren's, parents should give some good education, good, and ecosystem to them. The same thing can be applied to the, artifacts. Whenever we are trying to produce artifacts, we should give them in advance, anti-disposal rights. So that means we shouldn't produce something excessive artifacts because we should give some anti-disposal to right. So we should give also good ecosystem for what we produced as artifacts. Thank you.
No, thank you. And now we have time, roughly 15 minutes for questions or brief comments from the audience. I see one hand over here.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. May I ask you a question, please? Basically, when you talked about properties and changes that the we-turn vision should bring into society, you mentioned responsibilities. And may I ask you, what do you propose, legally speaking, with your paradigm shift about how we consider individual responsibilities, and if you think that this shift can also be applied to countries and international relations?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your very good questions. Okay, so my idea of we term of responsibility and should be weighted according to the degree and mode of each individual agent plays a role in the we actions. So basically, some member of we should have a greater responsibility than others. Take some crime. So most heaviest responsibility should go to the crimer, offender himself or herself. But we cannot escape totally from our part of responsibility. For example, responsibility as a citizen to make this society better, to prevent the same crime in the future. So responsibility should be, applied to all members of a society, but those responsibilities should be weighted according to our mode and degree of our agencies. And as for your second question, that's quite right. This kind of we responsibility should apply not to the individual, but to any organizations, any countries, any nations, and to any international, political, ethical scenes. Thank you.
Okay, any other question or comment? Yes, there is one here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is, I didn't really understand the difference between the humans and the artifacts, because from what I understand, the we society actually puts both humans and technology on the same level. So we should give some rights to the artifacts. Of course, the anti-disposal right is the first one we should give them. And at this point, where does human finish and artifact start?
Okay, and so maybe you're asking about distinction of human and artifacts. And maybe I agree with your basic background assumptions. So there shouldn't be or cannot be clear distinction between human artifacts. So there are some, clear example of humans that are not artifacts. And on the other hand, we can have a clear example of artifacts that is not humans. But maybe, or in the near future, or bit near far future, we can have something in between human and artifacts. And maybe we are already some sort of that kind of combinations between human and artifacts. I'm now wearing glasses. So this part of my function is performed, realized in an artifact ways. In such a way, maybe we can think of many different degrees of a cyborg, for example. So if we can take into account this kind of idea, there should be some sort of a gray zone, in between zone between human and artifacts. But anyway, here is a big important distinction between human and artifacts. And human shouldn't occupy the center exclusively. That's my fellowship model. But human should occupy, paracentral position nearer to the central, as far as humans are moral agents. So morality matters here. So we can make some distinction in degree among many members in the we. Some members should be closer to the center or in the paracentral regions. And other members should be far away in degree from the center. So what this kind of distinction is morally justified? My answer, only moral reasons can be or should be morally justified. And if human beings are moral agent, that allows humans near center positions. And if artifacts is not moral agent, so those positions should be a bit far away from the centers. So if in one day, artifacts can have a moral agency. So those moral artifacts should be treated exactly the same way with humans. So that's my idea.
Grazie, passo l'italiano per ricordare che potete fare domande in italiano, chiaramente, che verranno tradotte al professor Deguchi, quindi se avete dubbi, là c'è una mano alzata, anche i ragazzi, le ragazze, non esitate a fare domande.
Buongiorno a tutti. Allora, farò la domanda in italiano. Prima di tutto i complimenti per la definizione di artefatti, perché già in un'altra conferenza avevo criticato parlare troppo di intelligenza artificiale. L'intelligenza è una prerogativa dell'uomo che lo distingue da tutto il resto, per cui parliamo giustamente di artefatti, ci sarà sempre uno sviluppo maggiore nell'artefatto, però mi chiedo, artefatti è un termine che mi piace, ma con quale arte vengono fatti gli artefatti? Cioè, quali sono i motivi che spingono a produrre gli artefatti? Saranno tutti uguali e omogenei oppure qualcuno opererà per fare gli artefatti a suo interesse? E purtroppo con le devianze che ci sono oggi nel mondo, come li faranno sti artefatti? Poi la seconda cosa, per quel che riguarda i cambiamenti climatici e l'ecologia, eccetera, eccetera, proprio in questo Ateneo, quando mi iscrissi 56 anni fa, c'era il professor Carlo Mortarino che veniva preso per visionario perché parlava di ecologia, parlava che ci sarebbero stati i cambiamenti climatici e tutto. Era un genio riconosciuto a livello europeo. Nessuno ne parla più, stranamente, perché adesso abbiamo dovuto aspettare che ci sia la ragazzina svedese che parla di questi problemi. Ecco, non voglio dilungarmi perché se no magari le rubo troppo tempo. Comunque ancora complimenti per tutta la stesura e poi riassumo, consideriamoci abitanti di un grandissimo condominio che è il nostro pianeta, per cui tutti dovremmo avere l'interesse di mantenerlo sano ed efficiente. Grazie.
Okay, thank you for your questions. So your question related to the idea I mentioned, that is internalization of values. That means, so to produce artifacts or carrying out some technological work, it is important to take into some values. You mentioned environmental values. That's one of those important values. So to produce artifact, that should be good for environment, not bad for environment. That is one very important consideration for values, for internalization of values into the artifacts productions. And we can talk about the similar things for other values, such as well-being of we. So to produce some artifacts that is good for well-being, I think that is a good ethically justified motivation to production of artifacts. And if we have some different idea, different motivations, that's not good. So the point is, the artifact should be always produced to serve some important values. There are many values, and my proposal is we term of values to produce to some artifacts to serve for some we values. I think that is a very important or ethically justifiable motivation to production of artifacts. Thank you.
Abbiamo solo più pochi minuti. Incoraggio appunto soprattutto i ragazzi e le ragazze a... Prego, qua.
Hello, thank you for the
Hello.
presentation. I wanted to ask a similar question to an earlier one. Instead of the gray zone between humans and artifacts, I wanted to ask about the gray zone between artifacts and more basic technology. For instance, is there any technology at the moment that could already be considered an artifact? Like, is a large language model an artifact? Is a smartphone that can interface us with a large language model an artifact? And so on. Thank you.
So there are many artifacts. So art has a many wide, and meanings. And for example, art. So fine art is art, and sometimes, for example, medicine is called as art. So there are many art, of course. And now we have a sort of industrialized technological art. That's engineering. But of course, there should be always gray zones between technological, industrial, art and more, primitive, pre-modern art. Always there should be some sort of a gray zone or continuation spectrum between highly development art and artifacts and more basic art and artifacts. And always some gray zone should be there. That's my idea.
Ok, ultima domanda, concisa, così poi chiudiamo in tempo. Una ragazza, scusa, ma tutti... Ok, scusa, poi ti do, se la domanda non è veloce ti do...
Hello, I wanted to ask, how could a good we society deal with an individual that doesn't want to collaborate in that society and towards the same goals of that society? And also, what would be the relationships between a good we society and a bad we society? How could the two interface with each other?
Okay, and first, and one reason, and so there still are many ideas of individualism. And so individualism also very important, but I think one bad aspect of individualism is zero-sum gamic ideas among self-standing individual. Individual is taken to be, I think wrongly, as a self-standing. I can do at least some important thing, without help or support from others. So that results in isolations and zero-sum game, always competitions among individuals. So that is one reason behind we still have many bad aspects of individualism. That is based on the wrong view of individual. That is capability view and incapability views. And so your second questions. So what is the relation between the bad we and good we? And what good we can do for bad we? So of course, so bad thing to do is to exclude bad we or to simply attack bad we. So good we always to expand its boundary to the outside. So not exclude, isolate bad we, but to incorporate bad we into the good, more universal, larger we system. So that is one good way towards bad we. Not exclude, but incorporate or try to incorporate that.
Ultimissima, concisissima domanda, prego.
Innanzitutto grazie della conferenza. La mia domanda era legata ai valori, perché chiaramente l'approccio che lei descrive è su scala globale, quindi in realtà attraverso le varie culture ci sono valori anche contrastanti. Come questo matcha con l'approccio we?
And so that is another very important question. Thank you for that. So one possible way one possible important thing to be considered is empty-centered we structures I mentioned. So there should be many different ideas, different value systems, but no single value system is allowed to occupy the center. So every value system shouldn't occupy the center exclusively. That is very important idea or suggestion how to coexist many different, sometimes opposing ideas. Not to occupy the center exclusively. That's, I think, a very important strategy to be taken.
Okay, I think we have finished our time. It would have been wonderful to continue this conversation. So thank you, Professor Deguchi, and thank you to all present for this wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.